Welcome to the Bachelor Universe podcast. I am your host, Jim Alexander. Today we are going over episode 2 of Rachel's season of The Bachelorette. And a lot goes on in this one. This is so far the best episode of the season, but we only have 2 episodes to judge by. So we'll see if it holds up. But a lot of drama, nice twist and turn that we saw in the season preview happens in this episode very early on in the season. So without further ado, let's get into it and let's talk about what happened on episode 2 of The Bachelorette. So it starts out with the eliminations behind us, right? So we need to get on some dates, right? Right off the bat, we get a group date. And a group date sends the guys, in this case that would be Jonathan, Fred, Dean, Blake, Iggy, Kenny, Lucas. They get date cards. And their date starts out as like a fun game of football kind of week. They're just tossing around, having a picnic, having fun. Not much of a challenge, right? But we know every date has a challenge. So, of course, Rachel has a surprise for him. And what else? We get our first visitor, celebrity visitor of the season. And that would be Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis. That's quite the haul there for the Bachelor franchise right there, getting Mila Kunis and Ashton Kutcher. So the haul returns well for them after having Jimmy Kimmel, Kevin Hart, Ice Cube. Those were some of the previous celebrity guests that they had. But anyways, Ashton and Mila are there to kind of officiate and explain the rules of this next competition, which is the challenge is basically, who can prove to be a great father. So the challenge consists of an obstacle course and, of course, features a diaper changing on a doll baby. So that's a given, right? And then, that, of course, is the first thing that's on the agenda. So, it gets off to a messy start. Literally, these plastic babies are magically pooing or dirt up already. It doesn't go well. Iggy's already off to a bad start. But then he doesn't even get to the second round, which would be vacuuming. So there's like a vacuum set up with a carpet, but after you're done putting a diaper on the baby, you got to run over and vacuum the carpet. So Iggy, of course, didn't make through it, and he ends up in the doghouse. Gone from the beginning. Wow, bad start. So after that, after they vacuum that carpet, they have to unclog a drain with like water and get like apparently hair that's not really hair out of the drain. Then they have to drop off a ring. Yeah, so they need to get in there and find a ring in the sink. They have to set up a table, get a bouquet of flowers, and run back to Rachel. So that's quite the obstacle course there. But unfortunately for the Waboom clown, Lucas, it's him and Kenny. Well, in a way, it's unfortunate for us, not Waboom. But they're neck and neck, and Waboom kind of like he forearms and literally just plants Kenny like with a stiff arm. I mean, we're talking about like a Marshall Falk like stiff arm. That's what been described as. I mean, that's like Eric Dickerson or Walter Payton just swatting you away. That's sort of a stiff arm. And yeah, Kenny, the professional wrestler, goes down. Down goes Kenny! Down goes Kenny! Yeah, and Lucas Waboom wins the competition. Like, if you had to pick a father figure, that would probably be the last guy you would ever pick to win a competition like that, or just be a father in general. But yes, he wins, and Blake can't help but obsess over it. So there's that. And that leads us to Blake hates Waboom. More of this constantly still going on. So then they go to an arcade. That's basically the setting of where they're chilling after this whole competition and husband material challenge, that is. Then Lucas gets some time with Rachel because he obviously earned it, I guess. And he reads her some lame poem. And she actually likes it. Now, this guy must be the luckiest guy so far because two things he should have failed at somehow are working for him. On the other hand, though, you have Fred, the little camp counselor guy that's actually an adult now. Well, he's trying to make right on being a bad camp kid. I mean, how bad could he have been, really? Like, when you look at it, like, was he, like, what is he, like, eating his burgers or something? Like, what did he do? Take someone's lunch? I have no idea. But Rachel, I mean, she's not digging him at all, but she's also getting frustrated that there isn't any romantic spark with any of these guys so far. Like, it just seems to be bland. Meanwhile, at the house, Peter gets news that he is going on a solo date with Rachel. So Peter is the winner of the solo date. Okay, so we know what's coming up. But Blake is convinced. Now, Blake and Lucas, back to this stupid feud. Blake is convinced that Lucas is there to promote Waboom. Like, we know the shtick is exactly why he's there, but Blake wants the world to know. So, of course, he goes to Rachel and tattletales to her on Waboom, telling her basically that. But to his credit, he goes back and actually lights up Lucas and literally confronts him and blows up on him. So at least he wasn't a tattletale just behind Lucas's back, right? But they have this back and forth, and apparently we find out that Lucas's ex is roommates with Blake, and they all live in the same town. How do you pick two clowns out of the same town? I just don't understand. And this whole ex drama, why is she rooming with Blake? What? I mean, this is just more drama than anything this season's offered so far. And so while they're fighting and arguing, Kenny goes to chat up Rachel. He basically tells her he has a daughter, and Rachel must like it because there's an actual father figure, probably, unlike Lucas. So she comes back then to give the rose for the date, right? And Dean gets the rose. So Dean gets the group date rose. So, like he promised, right? He's on his way to going black and never coming back. That's Dean's motto, so he's one step closer to it. Now, back at the house, Dumb and Dumber are going at it. And by that, I mean Josiah and DeMario. They're trying to figure out, basically they're fighting to figure out who's going to be invited to their wedding with Rachel. So apparently these clowns are realizing that no one's going to be at this wedding, and they won't be making it to any wedding. So, meanwhile, Peter gets the solo date, and he gets to jet off with Rachel, but they have a special visitor. And this is a special visitor that I would completely approve. That would be her dog, Copper. So he's joining, and the dog Copper, when we see him, he's limping. He has a cast on one of his legs. So poor Copper. But he gets a good ride on an airplane to Palm Springs, right? So their date is at a dog fest. Like, for me, this would be an ideal date forever because I'm such a big animal lover, and especially dogs. Peter's going along with it, but it would be paradise for me. Too bad I never got a chance like that. So back in the house, there's another date card that arrives, and the remainder of the guys get a group date. So that's that. But Rachel and Peter have a discussion, and the discussion is about their gap in their teeth. Apparently, they're both convinced that it adds character, quote unquote. But apparently they don't realize they're the only ones partaking in this, because there's no way that anyone else would believe this besides them. It doesn't add character, okay? I have Invisalign, Rachel. You can do it. You've been on TV. I think you can do it. Same for you, Peter. No characters are added. The only character you need is a plastic one to put on to straighten out your teeth. It is so doable. I'm doing it. Anyone else could do it. Although mine isn't going so well, because I was promised 12 months, but I'm going on 24 months and 2 years. So, guess Invisalign might not be working for me. But at least, hey, I don't have any gaps like they do, right? And I'm proud of that. But because once you're on TV, I think that kind of a smile, perfect teeth look is important. I don't know. How is Rachel going to promote teeth whitener on Instagram, right? She needs to have like a nice closed up gap. Enough about that. So dentists, they are not for sure. But they do bond on another thing, and that is that Peter tells her that he actually went to see a therapist after his like relationship breakups and heartbreaks. And that basically leads Rachel to come out and say that she's done it also. So, and she's proud that he did it, and good for them, actually. You know what, that's, you know, if they can admit that on TV and they're proud of it and actually worked for him, why not? You know, I guess there's a stigma about going to therapists, but it works for people, right? And it worked for them. Now, the group date. So, they're going ballin', that's for sure. And ballin', I mean, there's always going to be like a celebrity athlete also, besides the celebrities that just show up, the actors and stuff. But this one is going to be run, this basketball camp, or whatever you might call it, by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, NBA Hall of Famer, arguably one of the top 5 greatest players in history of the league, the number 1 scorer in the league. Yes, I just hit myself. My watch, actually. That noise, if you heard. But yeah, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, that's pretty cool. All those guys seem stoked to meet him. Who wouldn't, you know? But there's one that might rival Kareem back in his playing days, that is. And that would be DeMario, who's just so confident in his skills. I mean, this guy says that he is confident as Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, and Derek Jeter. And if you really think of it, he probably wouldn't even know how to be a ball boy to those guys. DeMario, these are 3 world champions, all-time greats, and you are an all-time douche. So, not quite those guys. So there's this, apparently they're practicing and training for this big basketball game. We see that there is no quality basketball players in this group. But, of course, there's a big basketball game for Rachel's attention. And this, basically, gym gets packed with women. Like, I don't know, where do you find these random women willing to go to some random basketball game? Like, did you get paid for this? Would you want to be an extra for this? Well, they find a whole slew of women, some men probably, to fill up the gym. So there's the big game. But you see, unfortunately, no one in attendance is aware that these guys can't play a lick. But they will find out. But DeMario's not done talking, because he claims that, you know, he's such a clever guy. The D in DeMario stands for defense, for dunking. He did forget, I'm sure, that it stands also for douchebag and dirtbag and delusional, which is all that he is, a lot more than what he describes himself as on the basketball court. So, basketball game, well, like I said, these guys can't find the rim. Like, I think a blind squirrel would find a nut quicker than these guys would find a basket that's overhead, like right in front of them. I mean, you talk about bricks. If I was an audience, I'd be on alert that the ball might hit me, because they're certainly not hitting the rim. These guys suck. That's simply as that. Even poor Kareem. I mean, can't fix some things, and this is definitely non-fixable. These guys' basketball skills. But it's not about the game, right? It's about what happens after, and that's where we get our dramatic moment. Because after the game, one of those many women that filled up that gym in an audience comes up to Rachel, and she claims to be DeMario's girlfriend. Yes, not former, but current girlfriend. So, oops. Shit just got real, didn't it, DeMario? D for defense? Well, you better play some defense on this one because you got something coming your way, boy. The D for douchebag definitely comes to the surface. Applicable now more than ever. So, yeah, DeMario is about to get owned by Rachel and his girlfriend. So what happens? Yes, DeMario gets deflated. Rachel goes to the locker room and asks DeMario to come and join her. The guys are thinking like, oh no, he's getting some time with her. He's getting the upper hand. Well, he's getting the backhand. So DeMario gets to meet his girlfriend of 7 months. So, hey honey, I'm back. Wow, this loser, I mean, gets caught in a lie and gets caught in a bunch of lies. Getting roasted on by both women. His girlfriend knows what's up. I mean, she came equipped and armed with facts and proof. So, game over, D. And, yeah, that didn't take much for him to start backpedaling and trying to basically find a way to get away from this lie right in front of two women who are confronting you and catching you, I mean, in a cookie jar, with your hands in a cookie jar. This time he was trying to have his hands up somewhere else, not the cookie jar, but he gets caught, and this guy just stumbles, mumbles. I mean, his backtracking, his backpedaling is all-time bad. There's no way out of this, right? So clearly Rachel knows this. The girlfriend just lays it on him with facts after facts. He's been basically living with her and all these things. So tomorrow gets booted. Yes. And the thing is, he doesn't even get a chance to put his pants on because Rachel is sending him packing ASAP. Gone. He gone. That's for sure. So yeah, DeMario gets into the limo, never to be seen again. So who's the first one to pick up the slack for DeMario? It's enter Josiah. He comes to Rachel's side to comfort her and get her to finally laugh, right? Well, guess he got the final laugh after all, right? Well, DeMario's wedding has just been canceled with Rachel. And with his girlfriend, too, I'm sure. But one wedding down, one still on, right? I mean, Josiah booked it after all. So we'll see. He might have another week of that dream. But yeah, the men basically come to Rachel's aid, and she's willing to give out 9 roses, right? But Josiah is the one who gets it. You know, he gets that date rose. So, wow, another punch in the face to DeMario. More salt thrown at you, DeMario. It's salty. What a dagger, huh? A D for dagger. How about that? Yeah. So, this episode's Forgotten Boy, though. Who? Mr. Columbia Brian. Yeah, we didn't hear much from this episode or seen much of him. But he does manage to find some time with Rachel before the rose ceremony comes around, and he does manage to get some smooches. That's what Brian does. And as a therapist, a massage... he is actually a chiropractor, so we'll go with that. He has to cash in on his massage certificate, right? I don't know if he gave her or she gave him. I don't know how it goes, but he gets to massage her, so he wins, right? Both win, I guess. Poor Freddie. Poor Freddie. He just can't get a fair shot because Chris Harrison interrupts him when he's talking to Rachel and lets Rachel know that DeMario has arrived and is waiting outside the gate. So DeMario just can't get his face out of there. So Rachel decides to get away from Freddie once again and walk out to meet him. And the men follow her like soldiers, all of them, ready to throw it down with DeMario, right? And of course we get the to be continued. So the first cliffhanger of the season just dropped. And yeah, that's an interesting twist. Like, these are the kind of things that happen later on in the season. The girlfriend reveals, I mean, that's a pretty good one. For a second episode, yeah, this was a solid episode. I'd give it like a 9 out of 10 episode rating. But a lot happened. Good drama. DeMario, who seemed like an early favorite in a way, gone. And night 2, right? All that big talking, little action. Well, I mean, he had his action with his girlfriend, but not anymore with anyone. So that concludes the episode. It was a good one. So the next week's previews show that a new villain arises. So that's what we get out of it. And it looks like Lee is going to be the villain. The Southern country boy. Who would have thought? But yeah, DeMario gone. Damn. Diggin. DeMario, not anymore. He had the dagger thrown at him. So all these descriptions are basically all to devalue him. See ya, DeMario. Swish buckets. Alright, guys, so that concludes this episode of The Bachelorette and the Bachelor Universe podcast. You can reach me on Twitter at JimRKO, JIMRKO, or definitely check out the blog. Yeah, it's bacheloruniverse.wordpress.com, or you can just search Bachelor Universe and get it. On Google, right? It will come up. And same thing with podcasts is available on iTunes, Stitcher, all those cool venues where you can get your podcasts at. So definitely subscribe if you have a chance, and that helps. So thanks for that, and follow the blog and all that stuff. So the support's always great, and if you want to share comments or anything like that, just tweet at me or contact me through social media. That's where I'm at. Instagram, you can find me on there too. So there's a way to get your questions, and I will answer. So that's it. Until next week for the Bachelor Universe podcast, I'll see you guys later.